Really too bad it's raining today. I'm starting the Great Allegheny Passage. It's supposed to rain this morning, but then clear out this afternoon. I stayed in that hotel, the Wyndham, right there in the middle of the picture, and I'm going to pan around. Behind Stadium. And that's looking up toward the Allegheny River. This is looking up the Monongahela toward Pittsburgh from the Hot Metal Bridge, which I'm crossing to get to the south side of the Monongahela. Here's some smokestacks as an object of art. There are lots of platforms and wharves and things along the Monongahela, probably from the days when the steel industry was big here. That was looking north, and I'm turning south. This is a rail crossing that was converted into a footbridge on the Allegheny Passage. This is across the Monongahela, and I'm turning south. So I'm just coming off an overpass across the Monongahela. It's a nice little 20-mile-an-hour ride down the hill. So this trail is a little bit different than the Erie because a lot of it's paved, which is nice. Almost all of it is trail rather than, I don't think there are any on-road portions at all. Just past mile 133. So I'm about 20 miles south of Pittsburgh. I'm headed to mile 92. For camping tonight. Okay, so I lied. I'm on the street. But I'm on a bicycle lane on the street. Oh, here we go. That's better. So now I'm about 25 miles out of Pittsburgh, just went through McKeesport, and on my left is the Allegheny River. It's about 11:15 and raining lightly. Just finished stopping in Boston for some treats. The people that maintained the trail were providing free food and drink. Very nice. Happened upon this waterfall right beside the trail along the Allegheny. stopped to have lunch here, a little public garden along the trail. A lot of these little spots have restrooms. This one is no exception. It's got a restroom. And it's very clean. It's not like a porta potty. There are lots of places like this along the river where people have homes and lots of acreage along the river. There's a sign here that explains that this water is coming from underground mines, and the water is staining the rocks because of the acid and the iron in the water. There are quite a few other riders on this trail. Hi. It's very typical of the way the trail looks. The river valley on the left, and then the hills and cliffs rising up to the right side. And just very green and lush. Mile 102. 10 more miles to go to camp. This is a trail down Cedar Creek Gorge. You can see the Allegheny Passage passes over it. And this creek is one of the feeders to the Allegheny. This is a very calm spot in the Allegheny compared to where we rafted years ago. Of course, we rafted in Ohiopyle, and that's where I'm headed tomorrow. And that's where Cedar Creek empties into the Allegheny. It's a very nice little spot, a little wide spot in the river. I decided to stop. I'm probably 3 miles away from my campsite, but I just needed to take a break. Really ran out of steam today. I decided this is such a pretty scene that I needed to get down by the river. Really a pretty spot in the river. I'm just not sure I agree with what they've done to make this picnic spot here along the river. We kind of made an area where there's going to be a lot of erosion. Just leaving Connellsville where I had breakfast. It's about 8:45. At this point, I'm probably a few hundred feet above the Allegheny, going by a couple of little waterfalls. Connellsville, there's a slight rise out of Connellsville for probably a quarter of a mile. Beautiful path. So this is uphill all the way to Ohiopyle and beyond. Hey. turned out to be an absolutely gorgeous day. So from up here you can definitely hear the rapids. I'm probably 4 or 5 miles from Ohio Pile right now. It's too bad I'm not a little closer to the river. Like I said, I'm probably 150 feet from the surface of the river, going in that direction. I remember passing under this railroad trestle years ago. I could sit here and enjoy this river for a long time. I just love the sound, and it's just very relaxing to me. Of course, being on it would be another thing. It's a beautiful part of the Allegheny. Toward the southern end of it. It runs through most of its length through these tall and steep hills. And there are many little creeks and streams running down the hills feeding the Allegheny throughout its length. This is one of those spots in the river where the bike trail is fairly close to the river, and I decided to take advantage of it. And kind of an inviting stairway also made it a little easier to climb down the slope. A little foggy this morning. It's also very chilly. I stopped to put a jacket on. I just started on the trail, and it's 7:50 in the morning. You can see another cyclist coming down the trail. That's the trailhead back there. And this is the campground that I declined to stay at last night. There's the spot that I would have had right near the trail. Rain jacket on, but it still feels very chilly when I'm moving along, even at a slow speed. This morning I started out at about 1,600 feet altitude and heading up to the divide, the Eastern Continental Divide. It's going to be about 2,600 feet. So over the next 20 miles I got a 1,000-foot climb. Shouldn't be too bad. Nice. Total 4 of them. So the Cumberland River is on my left. but it's not as interesting as the Allegheny or the Monongahela. Kind of shallow, so there isn't much recreation on it. Plus, most of the time I can't see it. Mile 39 miles from Cumberland. Look at them go. Come on, buddies. You're just standing there right by the side of the road. I couldn't help but notice this peacock sitting on the peak of this barn. Get in there. Whoop, he just took off. So just so you can see that I wasn't crazy, there are peacocks here on this farm. And there's one sitting right there. Let me get closer. Guarding the cow, I suppose. Another long trestle slash bike path across the Castleman River. I think it's the Castleman River. Actually not, it's just across a gorge. Oh no, there's the river. This is another bike path that was converted from a railroad trestle, and this is across the Castleman River, which is down below. You get an idea how hilly the countryside is here. And you can see the wind farm in the distance. Just talking to a gentleman from around here, and there are apparently wind farms all over the place in this area. And he's a local, and he's very skeptical about the benefit that the local area gets from them in terms of jobs and stuff. So this is Deal, and this is the summit, 2,600 feet. Downhill the rest of the way. I guess one thing you could say is this is no big deal. So on this side it says leaving the Chesapeake Bay watershed, entering the Gulf of Mexico watershed, and actually it's the reverse because that's where it came from. So actually now Deal was not quite it. It shows in the map as the town at the Eastern Continental Divide, but the map doesn't have very much resolution. So anyway, that's where I've been, and Very nice start here, downhill. So when the bike is loaded with 50 pounds plus me, it rolls really nice downhill. This feels so great compared to the other side of the divide. This is the portal of the Big Savage Tunnel, built in 1911, is what it says on the sign. And it's lighted, which is nice. Biking through the Big Savage Tunnel. Pretty well lit, actually. Looking at it now, it even seems kind of small for a big steam locomotive to come through here. Dark spot. Woo woo! Hi. It is downhill because I'm gaining speed here. Not too much effort. Afraid that it would be unpredictable and bumpy. It really isn't. It's very nice and well enough lit that it's not a problem. The tunnel I'll be going through later that I'll have to wear my headlamp. Somebody told me that you could see the light at the other end of the tunnel from the portal, but it's deceptively far away. How true. This may be where the phrase comes from. I suppose. So this is the side that I exited, and now I'm going to be headed down that way. The view here just outside the Big Savage portal is just really awesome. why we ride uphill, so that we could ride downhill very fast. We're about 20. Feels good. I didn't even take much pedaling. About a 1.75% grade. I'd like to get up to about 25. You know, and then coast for a while. Yes. Coasting. Such an awesome feeling. The Borden Tunnel, a lot shorter than the Savage. This is that awesome downhill run, which lasts all the way to Cumberland, about 23 miles total from the summit. It's a weird feeling going through. This is the Borden Tunnel. It's a weird feeling going through it because it gets pretty dark. It's about a quarter of a mile long. So this is a working turntable. They use it to turn the steam locomotive around. They have like a scenic railway that runs from Cumberland to here, which is Fairmount. Get a pretty nice view. I'm on a little deck on a stairway that leads up to downtown. Well, I'll show you. There's the stairway. And I don't have too much farther to go. It's 1 o'clock. It's only 15 more miles downhill to Cumberland, so I'm gonna see what there is to do here in Fairmount. So as I walk back to my bike, I'm trying to remember the name of this town. I don't know what I called it earlier, but it's Frostburg. Right there. I can't, on this trip I haven't gotten the name of any of these towns committed to my mind at all. I don't know why. Pittsburgh and Cumberland, I got those. Funny they have a speed limit on the downhill run, 15. Well, we coast at 15. Then we have to touch the pedals. So this is the spot where the scenic railway from Frostburg meets up with the Great Allegheny Passage. And the trail, bike trail, pretty much follows the tracks, I think, all the way into Cumberland. By the way, I haven't touched the pedals since Frostburg, well, except to rest my feet on them. And I've gone probably about a mile. It's cool, so I just passed milepost 13. So I haven't touched the pedals in about 2.5 miles. I haven't cranked the pedals. letting the grade do the work. I worked hard for this. 2 days of going uphill. 2.5 days. Just past mile 9. That means 6 miles, about 6.5 miles without touching the pedals, without cranking. I'm going to see if I can make it all the way to Cumberland without any more effort than standing on these pedals. So this tunnel is a live tunnel from the standpoint that the scenic railroad goes through here, and there are signs that say that if a train's approaching, stay out of the tunnel, and that's because it's a steam locomotive, and I imagine you'd come out of there pretty dirty and maybe even suffocating from the smoke. So not going to happen today though, because it doesn't run on Monday. The view from here gives you a great idea how difficult it was to cut a railroad through here in 1911. My game ended at about, let's see, just past mile 7. So I'd gone about 8 miles without doing any pedaling. Then I had to stop for the brush tunnel. I always stop to pay homage to the tunnels. And I'm just 3 miles from Cumberland. And I have to say that for the last 15 miles, there were a couple of things to see, but the most interesting feature is this coasting thing. Matter of fact, I almost fell asleep at the handlebars a couple of times. It's so boring. You're just coasting downhill. Really doesn't pay to pedal because you really should go. You got your speed limit here, 15 miles an hour. Now a little less than 2 miles to Cumberland, to the trailhead. I'll hit the pedals a couple of times to get going. I don't think the coasting is quite as good here in this last couple of miles. So one of those cliffs up there is Lover's Leap. And as I was thinking, it would be good for them to have a sign that pointed to Lover's Leap, or maybe even a sign on top of Lover's Leap pointing down at the edge of the cliff. But I think there was a restaurant at one time that had an arrow that pointed up to it. So this is where the Great Allegheny Passage ends and the C&O Canal towpath starts. Goes all the way to DC.